Well, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Young Adult Edition. I'm so excited to see you all today. We are talking about one of the scariest things in the book world. We're talking all about cliffhanger endings and how to survive them. I am joined by my fantastic co-host, Elle Beaumont. Elle, how are you doing today?
Good. I had an exciting weekend. How are you?
I'm good. Exciting is definitely the word to describe this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, I lost power for a few days, so I'm trying to survive that. But then also my Border Collie Alice, took best of breed. So if you guys were following me on Instagram, you saw that in my stories, and I'm so excited because my Alice is my showgirl.
I'm so excited. I was getting the live texts as it was happening, so congratulations to Alice. That's super exciting. Unfortunately, our co-host Amber Ardul is unable to join us today. She has a bit of food poisoning, so send her your well wishes down in those comments below, and we'll pass those along to her later today when she's feeling a little bit better. But we are excited to see all of you. Good morning, Danielle. We're excited that you are here. We're talking all about the scariest subject in all of YA, those dreaded cliffhanger endings, and we're talking about how to survive them. We've got a special guest with us today. We're going to introduce her in just a moment, but before we get there, we do have to talk about book world news, and we've got to talk about those new releases. So, Elle, what do we have in the world of book world news?
So Karen M. McManus, author of One of Us is Lying, is going to be releasing a new novel. The Cousins, from Delacour Publication, is due in the fall of 2020. And it follows three cousins in this story. So if you loved One of Us is Lying, she does have a new release next year. You guys do have to wait like a full year, but maybe she'll early release. Who knows?
Get those early chapters out. We love seeing those, right?
Mm-hmm.
So much fun. For more up-to-date news, go ahead and check out youngadultedition.com/news. Every time a piece of news breaks inside of the YA world, we're bringing it to you here first. Check it out, youngadultedition.com/news. And if you've got news we should know about, send it in. We'll give you a shout out on the show. Melanie is in the comments saying good morning. So excited to be here. We're excited that you are here as well, Melanie. Thanks for always showing up and being so super supportive. Speaking of the really cool things we love to support here on the show, we've got some fabulous new releases this week. We're excited to bring those to you. I stepped on a dog. I'm sorry. But we've got some really cool new releases out this week. So let's go ahead and take a look at the new books that happen to be coming out this week in the world of YA. And of course, every week, our new releases are powered by @theQD over on Instagram and Facebook. The Quick and Dirty Bibliophile every single Monday releases all of the new releases in the world of YA, NA, and paranormal romance. So you can go check out her on social media and let her know that Young Adult Edition sent you @theQD Bibliophile on Instagram and Facebook. And give us a shout out. Which of these books are you most excited for this week? And if you happen to be an author who has a book coming out soon, or if you know of a book that's coming out soon that you want to make sure we include, go ahead and DM us. Let us know what we should be including in our upcoming episodes of Young Adult Edition as we're breaking down all of those new releases. And if you want more details on those new releases, you can actually go to youngadultedition.com/new-releases for all of the latest books that are dropping this week with a full and comprehensive list of those titles and authors and the days that they come out. Thanks so much for joining us for Young Adult Edition. We're so excited to see all of you here today. We're talking all about cliffhanger endings and how to survive them. And we've got a fabulous guest star with us. Her name is Kristin Jacque, and she is the author of... hang on, I thought I had that up there. There we go. The author of Marrow Charm, which we're so excited about. Kristin, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's definitely Monday.
Definitely Monday. It's been a Monday. Yeah. Nothing short of a lot of tech trouble over here at Young Adult Edition, but we're excited to be live. We're excited to have Kristin here with us. Kristin, can you tell us just a little bit about your book?
It's a dark fantasy that features monsters, magic, and mayhem, and siblings.
That's the way to do it. I love it. So we are going to be talking all about cliffhangers, and Amber actually brought you to us and said you have quite the cliffhanger ending in your story. We're not going to give away any spoilers or any details, but guys, if you love a good cliffhanger, this is the book for you. We're going to jump in and talk all about how readers and writers can be surviving those dreaded and loved cliffhanger endings. So before we jump in, just show of hands, are you guys a fan of cliffhanger endings? Hands up. Ladies on my screen, do we love cliffhanger? Yes. All right. I love it. And let us know in the audience if you're joining us live. We want to hear from you. What is your all-time favorite book with the best cliffhanger ever? Give us your recs down in the comments down below. And if you're on our replay, we want to hear from you too. We will be monitoring those questions and comments over the next couple of days and weeks. And if you've got something that is so good when we get to questions that we didn't answer on air, we might just be able to get Kristin to come back and answer it for you. So hit us up if you're on the replay here on facebook.com/CamRobinsonBooks or over on our YouTube channel, because we want to hear from you even if you are not joining us live. So let's dive in. We're going to have a conversation all about those cliffhanger endings. And the first thing I want to know is why authors actually use cliffhanger endings. So Kristin, what do you think?
I think it gives a great incentive for series. Like, it really makes people hungry for the next book.
I agree with that. Elle, how do you feel?
I think it's like Kristin said, it's a good incentive, and it's kind of like that hook into the series. Like if that cliffhanger is delivered well, then I think it makes people go, well, now I have to know. Even if they didn't necessarily say enjoy book one, because I'm not going to go too much into that, but sometimes that book two like really sells the entire series. And that hook is like, oh my gosh, I just have to know. And I think that's why authors would use a cliffhanger.
I'm a fan of cliffhangers because I like to see where the story is going next. Like, usually within a book, you kind of complete that particular part of the story arc, and then you move into this next part. So I love cliffhanger endings because it tells me where the story is going, what the next problem is. It really sets me up for that next story in the series. And without it, I could potentially just walk away and just let it be a nice story. So I love those cliffhanger endings as a reader because it gets me ready for the next one and tells me the direction we're going, and it gets me prepared, and I get to think about it, and it's just wonderful and lovely. But Melanie is in the comments saying she is not a cliffhanger person, and she doesn't usually include those in her books. So if you're an author, shout us out. Let us know. Do you take advantage of cliffhanger endings, or do you kind of let it go where it ends within the story and just pick up in the next book? Let us know. We would love to hear from you guys. And if you've got questions for Kristin about cliffhanger endings, now is a great time to drop those for us, because we've got all sorts of fun things we're chatting about here on Young Adults Edition today. Melanie is saying, I like to do a gentle lead-in. Is that a cliffhanger? Well, let's talk about that. How do we define cliffhangers, ladies? Kristin, how about you?
Oh, I define cliffhanger as like literally leaving the plot like at a point where the book is finished, but you're left a lot of things dangling for your audience.
Yeah, I agree with that. Typically, they kind of like end that particular story. There's some type of resolution, but then you've got things that are definitely unfinished that need to be resolved in the next one. So it's interesting. If you have like a little lead in, I feel like that may be a little bit different than a cliffhanger, because you're setting up the next book, but not necessarily dangling all these things and leaving all of these unanswered questions. Elle, how do you feel?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like a gentle lead-in isn't the same as a cliffhanger, because it explains it, whereas a cliffhanger, it literally leaves you like, no, you can't stop there. No, I need the answers.
I really like the latter of those. I love those. Oh my God, what happens next?
Because it then makes you go out and like, I need this book now. Or like, for author friends, like, no. Before you do anything, you need to send me that copy. I don't care if it's in the rough. I don't care if it's rough. You need to send me that, because I need to know.
And I think that's a very good point too. Like, a gentle lead-in is one thing, but a cliffhanger is when your fans throw your book across the room and scream at you because you just messed with their heads.
Yeah, like You need to tell me what happens. Are they dead? Like,
if you don't have people rioting at the end of your book, it's probably not a cliffhanger.
It's probably not. It's a gentle lead-in versus, the cliffhanger, because the cliffhanger makes your readers, like you said, throw books at you, send you angry DMs.
Exactly. I love it.
So that actually brings us into what are signs of a good cliffhanger, Kristin? Like, what do you think makes a good cliffhanger?
I definitely think a good cliffhanger is the type that has me immediately picking up the next book if it's available, or has me thinking about the book from like days or weeks afterwards, like just wondering what happens next. Those are definitely my favorite kind of cliffhangers. It makes me feel a little evil when I write them, but I still love doing it.
Oh, so you must really write those really tough cliffhangers.
So scale of 1 to 10, like how mean are you with your cliffhangers? 10 being the meanest.
Depending on the series, I can be like an 8 or a 9.
I love it.
It's okay. I personally know how you make your cliffhangers good, but what do you think in general are good cliffhangers?
Well, I think it really goes back to the reader wanting to throw the book at your head as the author. If you don't have, you need to have the story arc wrapped up. So whatever problem you've given them in that book, that needs to be handled, but then a new problem needs to be introduced, or a new branch off of that original problem. So a good cliffhanger completes the story within that particular book, but then introduces the next book. And if they aren't rioting at the end, it's probably not the best cliffhanger. So if they aren't immediately picking up the next book if it's available, or if they're not sliding into your DMs yelling at you, if they're not contacting you, if they're not throwing riots, you probably didn't do it as strongly as you could have or should have done. So good cliffhangers make people throw books at your head.
Yes. Or at least, in the very least, demand that you write that sequel on the spot. Like, or even like, an epilogue short story at the end. Like, you need to explain what happened.
Oh gosh, and that actually is going to bring us into our next question in just a second. But before we get there, we want to know, do you, our viewing audience, have questions for us on cliffhanger endings? We would love to hear from you. Drop those down in the comments below. We're going to get all of your questions answered while we're on air today. And if you are on our replay, we actually want to hear from you too. Go ahead and hit us up. We're going to be monitoring those questions and comments over the next couple of days and weeks and getting as many answered as possible. We might just be able to drag Kristin back to the show if you've got a question that we don't get answered on the show today, but it is so dang good we can't pass up. So hit us up with those questions, hit us up with those comments, and let us know what you guys are thinking.
So, leading into my thing that I just said, how are cliffhangers different than open endings? So, we talked about gentle lead-ins, we were talking about cliffhangers, and what about open endings? How is it different, Kristin?
An open ending kind of like resolves a lot of the book, but also leaves like the back door open to possible sequels, or even like a single standalone book can have an open ending where it leaves it more to reader interpretation of what happens next.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Are you a fan of those open endings versus cliffhangers, or are you kind of exclusively the mean cliffhangers?
I do like open endings, but it has to be done well. Like The Sopranos, I hate that open ending. But other books like are really good at leaving open endings, and I'm trying to like strain to remember the last one I read that I really liked. Sorry.
That's so funny. Ravendra is in the comments saying, "Hey, is that Kristin? Good to see you here, Kristin. Hey, getting all the love today." Elle, how do you feel about open endings? How are they different? Do you like them?
I do not like open endings. I like things to be resolved, and I don't like there to be this question of, if it's like a romantic thing, like, oh, they could end up together. Like, no, you need to tell me these things, because my brain like ends up going down this like thing like, no, I need to know. So I'm going to throw out Eleanor in Park was by Rainbow Rowell. That was an open ending. And it was such a hard read, like emotionally a hard read. And the ending is just, they might not, like, and I didn't like that. I was not a fan of it. Like, after you put the characters through so much, and I'm saying this as a reader and also as a writer, like, no, I like clear endings. Like, this is how it wraps up. Or you just kind of go in with your cliffhanger and continue the series. Like, I just don't like that. They could not. If this could happen, it could not happen.
Yeah, with romances, I tend to like it being more clear cut. Give me the happy ending. Come on.
Yeah, like happily ever after or happily not. Like that's I'm pretty like cut dry there.
Melanie is definitely agreeing with you in the comments. She needs to know, and I feel like for me, I'm probably along the lines of I need to know. Like I want to know the outcome. Please just tell me. I don't want to figure this out myself. Having said that, I may have some open endings in some of my books. Sorry, guys. Also not sorry. So I tend to like to know, and I'm okay with open endings that very strongly lead me toward that conclusion, but don't outright say it. So as long as I'm very confident that I know, even though it isn't outright said, I'm okay with those open endings. I do prefer the cliffhanger endings, obviously not to the end of a series. But what I'm not a fan of is when a series is ending, but then they kind of open up this new avenue in the book that maybe there could be another book at some point, but they're not writing it and their publisher isn't publishing it and it's not actually happening, but it could. There's an open door for a decade later it to happen. I'm thinking of one particular series in my mind right now that has resolved everything and then just like at the very end just added a couple things in that she could have. If her publisher had purchased the other book, she could have had the third book in the series, but she just didn't. And then there's just kind of this open-ended ending to the series, which I was not a fan of. But let us know, guys, how do you feel about cliffhangers versus open-ended stories? Let us know in the comments below. We would love to hear your thoughts. And if you love them, hit us with recs that you absolutely love of books with great cliffhangers or great open endings. Don't bash. All the love. We're giving all the love to the books that we do enjoy those cliffhanger endings and those open-ended questions too. And if you've got questions, now is a great time to drop those for us. And hey, if you're having fun, let your friends know. Bring them to the party. We would love to hear from them. And we would love to hear from you too. So let your friends know that we're hanging out live and bring them to the party so that they don't miss any of the fun. Switching gears just a little bit, I want to talk about some writer advice and some reader advice, specifically reader advice right now. What is our best advice for surviving cliffhangers? So when our fans are reading our books or other books, and they get to those cliffhanger endings and they do want to throw the book across the room or hit the author in the face with it, what can they do to survive until the next book, Kristin?
I would recommend maybe reading different books that have more satisfying endings in the meantime. Like those standalones that just like have everything resolved. Maybe a palate cleanser.
I like that, the palate cleanser.
Oh gosh, that's good. Melody's in the comments saying I'd rather have a cliffhanger than an open ending, and she's given some book recs down in the comments below. Guys, make sure you are checking those out. Elle, how do you feel about those cliffhanger endings? What can people do to survive them when they come across them as they're reading?
I do recommend reading similar books that may not have a cliffhanger, or at least if it does have a cliffhanger, be a complete series so that you can get like your satisfying read in there and you can get your answers. Or as Kristin said, do a palate cleanser, do standalones where there's not there's not like those cliffhangers or open endings, something that you know is wrapped up tidily in a neat bow and is going to be satisfying, because as we know, we can wait from 6 months to a year plus for these answers to be in our faces, and it's very hard. I also do recommend eating chocolate and crying in a little ball. And
I like that one. That's a fun picture. My advice is going to be a little more along the lines of Elle's last advice. If you are suffering from a cliffhanger ending and you just don't know what to do and you don't know how to move on with your life, I recommend direct messaging the author and having a conversation with them and talking about what you just read and begging them for more details, because usually that makes us write faster. I'm just saying. Fan art is also a great thing. If you want us to move faster, draw us fan art. Get it out there and support us in some way. Leave those reviews on Amazon. We want to hear from you guys, but the best thing for me, speaking as an author, for other authors, is to get that interaction from fans. So if you have read our book and the next book is not out yet and you are dying for it, the best thing you can do is send us fan art, is direct message us, is play the games we've created for those books, is to visit our world portals on our website for those books, is to get behind the scenes, is to ask us questions so that we can film videos or do blog posts or do behind the scenes things that will help satisfy you until that next book is in your hands. The best thing you can do is reach out to us and interact with us. I'm just saying, if you've got advice, let us know in the comments below. We want to hear from you. How do you survive cliffhanger endings while you're waiting for the next books to come out in that particular series? Let us know. Melanie's in the comments saying, I like getting warnings about cliffhangers, so I'm not surprised. I'd rather know going into it with the knowledge it won't resolve completely. That is rather fun. And that's a great question. Ladies, do you like to know when there's a cliffhanger coming, or do you kind of like to stumble upon it?
I think I like stumbling in blind. I mean, I definitely get more of the throw the book reaction if I don't see it coming. Then I'm just like, no! At the end. But sometimes when I read those Goodreads reviews ahead of time, I know what's coming. So I can brace myself.
I'm definitely with you. I don't like knowing. I like stumbling upon them and just wanting to throw the book at the author's face. That kind of makes it more impactful for me. But I know that my fabulous co-hosts, Amber, who is not here today, and Elle tend to like to do a little something to kind of navigate those waters. What do you do to help you survive, Elle?
We read spoilers. Like,
and she goes to the last page and reads that.
Yeah, like we like to read the last page because we like to kind of, at least for me, I don't want to speak for Amber, but me and Amber kind of shared like the same view. It's a spoiler, but like sometimes it gets frustrating and like anxiety and everything. Like, how does this? How is this even going to end? Like.